2004 was the year a new entry in the Metal Gear Solid series was released. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater had players step into the shoes of Big Boss before he earned that title. Players were tasked with going behind enemy lines set during the Cold War. As Big Boss, players would acquire most of their equipment on site. Snake Eater added another element to this sense of surviving too. The players had to contend with a depleting stamina bar, and this became more and more severe on harder difficulties. Stamina would affect the player's health regeneration, movement, and other factors. To ensure your stamina didn't completely deplete, the players must hunt animals and eat to survive to regain that stamina.
That's damn good.
In addition to the stamina, a recovery system was used if the player sustained injuries they needed to acquire healing items or plants to heal themselves. These injuries, if left unattended, would have adverse effects on your maximum health. Oddly enough, a game in 2018 would take these survival elements and crank them up for a spin-off to the Metal Gear Solid series. Metal Gear Survive launched in February 2018 and was publicly hated. Some protested it because of the controversy between the publisher Konami and the creator of Metal Gear, Hideo Kojima. Others decided to dislike it before they even tried playing it. Some reviewers reviewed the game presenting many half-truths about the game. While the game is surrounded by some hate and controversy, there is a group of people that really enjoy the game. And I am one of those people. My intent isn't to change your mind on this game, but rather present my different perspective that I have on it than the general audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my review for Metal Gear Survive. What drew me into the game was its sense of risk and reward, along with the progression of starting at square one and essentially building yourself up from there. To understand the risk and reward and progression, we first need to explain the survival systems that are at play within this game. You start essentially at level 0 and must climb to continually better your character and survive. As you're playing the game, you'll be monitoring and managing your food and water levels. If you let your hunger grow or become dehydrated, these will continually have negative effects on your health bar, stamina bar, and the regeneration of both of them. If your levels get too low, your screen will become fuzzy and hard to see. This sounds bad, but the game does a good job of providing continual improvements and progression so that you always feel like you're on this upward climb. I spent my first few hours hunting and ensuring I had a decent supply of food. Clean water was hard to come by, so that resulted in me drinking a lot of dirty water, which would occasionally cause my character to become ill. Illness negatively affects your maximum health and stamina, along with causing you to throw up while even in combat. After a few hours with the main missions, you'll earn the ability to farm and then produce your own clean water. I do like that the game continues to run on its clock even when you're not playing, so you're earning food and water while you're not playing the game. So when you return to the game, say you play the game and you only play it a couple times a week, when you get to it at night, after you've been at work, all those hours while you've been at work, you've been making water and food, your base has just been going on. I like that idea, I think it's pretty neat, and it's like, oh, I made this structure and it's always rewarding me. The monitoring of your food and water levels is always there, but it slowly becomes something you keep an eye on rather than really worry about for your whole time with the game. Food and water aren't the only things you'll need to monitor. You'll need to monitor what you're carrying as you explore. If you go over your weight limit, you'll lose the ability to sprint, and then if you go further over your limit, you'll only have the ability to slowly walk. While you're in the dust area, your oxygen slowly depletes and can be restored while using the in-game energy known as Coop energy. Even how the map is detailed and opens up is related to player progression. As you initially walk into a new area, your map won't know where you are, but your device that you have will sync back up with you at main base and just pretty much chart everywhere you had traveled within the game. So if you went into an unknown area and then you explored around in there and then you return back to your base, you link up your device and now that whole area is open up. So now you can see within that area. I really like that as it really feeds into the exploration. At the same time, it really does make you feel like you're going into the unknown. You don't know what's over there. Monitoring all these systems can seem like a lot in the beginning, but as you continue with the game rewards you for playing and you can feel yourself continuing to get stronger. You start out with relying on hunting and gathering for food, and then you progress to producing your own food through farms and animals that you've captured. I enjoyed the steady pace of progression. By having the player start out at square one, you essentially feel like all these upgrades are earned, and you appreciate them as the player. If you instantly started out with the ability to farm and make clean water, you would not have appreciated them. But I can see that many will find the beginning hours of this game a slow burn, and in many ways very niche in its approach. While this is a slow burn, I would encourage players to stick with the game because it is engaging how much this game continues to open up, and even continues to open up more after you've beaten the main story. The exploration is what really grabbed me. I found it satisfying to search new areas and find these crates to have these unlockable new armors or weapons or just get more materials. The dust area adds atmosphere to that exploration. Like I said before, your oxygen will deplete within the dust, and there's this nice layer of fog that covers the whole area. This makes it a bit hard to see while giving off a good sense of loneliness and a feeling of uneasiness. You can't see everything in the dust, so I do like that it does impede your vision a bit, so you do need to be on your toes. Especially in the early hours of the game, you need to watch out for your surroundings as a group of enemies can pretty much take you out. While exploring the dust, you'll stumble across these new areas that are not covered by the dust, and they essentially act as these nice moments of relief as you won't need to monitor your oxygen. A few of the story missions will take you into these damaged buildings, and the camera likes to hug the back of the player. This gives off a decent feeling of claustrophobia. I found this to add some good tension as you can't really see as much as you do when you're outside, and at the same time, since you're indoors, your maneuverability is decreased, so you really need to be cautious. The survival mechanics, exploring, and even progression all have a risk and reward to them that in many ways treats the player like an adult. I needed to set the groundwork for the systems you needed to monitor to further elaborate on them here. The game asks you to make choices and consider all of its variables. Do I have enough food to continue this fight? Do I have enough oxygen to get back to a fast travel station? Do I have enough materials or even the right materials for this encounter? The game teaches you to consider everything as you continue to play the game. This relates to the game's learning curve. With asking you to consider many variables, you need to continually adapt to your situation. Death acts as a moment of reflection more than a point of frustration. Why did I die? Was it because I didn't bring the right defensive equipment for a tower defense encounter? Did I forget to monitor my oxygen levels? Did I decide to fight a group of enemies that might have been too strong for me to handle? As you play the game, you'll learn more, and that helps you better tackle the game itself. This isn't a tangible means of progression like experience points or new equipment, but rather knowledge of how to better face the encounters within the game. Taking risks within the game can be some of the most memorable player-initiated experiences within the game. Late in the game, I decided to explore within the Africa section. Yes, you heard me right. You're not just in the Afghanistan section of this game, you actually go to Africa. I know a lot of reviews didn't mention that, but hey, I'm talking about it here. Since I was in a new area, I didn't have the map to be able to aid me to figure out where I was, nor did I really know my surroundings because I was in this new area. Along with that, I really had to make sure to monitor my weight limit, and it was almost full. I was at 99% weight capacity, so I could still run, but since I was in the dust area, my oxygen was slowly running out. I started to make my way back, and then I came across a new area that I didn't hit before. I got into a fight with a few wanderers, and while reloading, I accidentally picked up an item, so I went over my weight capacity. So at this point, I couldn't run, so my speed was reduced, and so since I went over the weight limit, I figured, oh, I'll just grab some more, but not go over too much because then I can't really walk. I continued to get lost until I luckily made it back to a checkpoint. This was a huge sign of relief and satisfaction as I made it out of the dust to get back to home base and cash in on all the supplies that I found. That was one of my favorite moments from the game, and it was just done through player exploration. Food plays a part into the risk and reward early on, with choosing between eating uncooked meat on the fly to increase your health, with the chance of getting food poisoning, or returning back to your home base to cook it so you don't get food poisoning. This also factors into the combat. As I stated in my defense of Metal Gear Survive video, I had a friend who was getting frustrated with the early hours of the game, especially with some of the single player defensive missions. He would start these encounters without considering if he had the right supplies for the job. He would forget to bring walls and barriers to slow down enemies so he wouldn't get overrun. He lost in a few of these situations, and this was the game trying to teach him to consider what he brought into combat to ensure that he was ready for that fight. I found combat rather fun, especially because I enjoy zombie games. The variety gradually grows as you play the game. Many people discuss how all you fight in the game are these wandering zombies, but you do get some variety before the game throws a lot of variety at you when you get to the Africa section. For the first area, you'll get wanderers, which can be tough in packs, and then you'll fight these bombers, which are these big fat ones that'll blow up and hit everyone around it. Then you get these sentry bugs that will kind of hit you at range, but once you get to Africa, the difficulty steps up a huge notch, and then you have to start considering different strategies, especially with these creepy enemies that look like plants and they hiss at you. If you get too close, they'll grab you and you need to try to break free before the rest of the enemies come in close. You'll also fight there these mortar-like enemies that'll lob these bombs at you, and they also have a variety of gun-like moves that they hit you with. Then you have these kung fu leaping wanderers that take more damage and they try to hunt you down. That fence and spear strategy that many critics like to say that's how you're going to play the whole game, they didn't make it to the Africa section because in Africa the variety vastly improves. The story is very entertaining, even though at times I found it to get too confusing and underdeveloped. You play as one of Big Boss's soldiers who gets sucked into a wormhole and you get thrown into another dimension, and you're essentially trying to find your way home. You're given your mission by a mysterious man named Good Luck, and you'll gain allies and build your base as you progress throughout the story. There's a lot of cutscenes within the first hour of the game, and then after that, the game's pretty much hands-off, with only having codec-like conversations to progress the plot. Once you get to Africa, the cutscenes definitely increase, and there are some really good ones. Along with that, the story as a whole is very entertaining, and there's even a plot twist at the end that I didn't see coming. So overall, it isn't the best part of the game, but it's pretty fun. After you beat the game, you're greeted to more content, like base defense missions that you can initiate at your home base. These will help you gain more equipment schematics, and in your first instance of doing this, you'll be rewarded with an automatic turret. These missions are fun to do as they have some weight to them because you're essentially protecting the base that you've built up, so you want to keep that safe. You can spend currency that is given out as rewards for events, daily logins, or you can pay real-world money for it. Essentially, you can use these coins in a variety of ways. You'll have this system that's very similar to the Assassin's Creed system that's in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you can send out assassins to go do missions for you, and then you get rewards. The same concept as here is essentially you can send out some of your people from your base to go get supplies for you. You start out with one team, and you can essentially buy more slots as you acquire more coins and open up more of them to get more supplies if you so choose. You can also use the coins to add an additional character slot, not a save slot. Character slots and save slots, they're two different things. Along with this, you can also use the coins as a means to speed up your timer for some of your base defense missions, and you can use it to provide some microtransaction boosters to help you out if you want. I never used any of that stuff. I played this game for almost 80 hours. I didn't see any need for it. They were annoying that they were all there in some way, shape, or form, always kind of creeping in a little bit, and I never felt like I needed this to get any supplies. And the big reason for this is that the campaign does a decent job of giving you some resources, especially if you do a lot of exploration, but the co-op is where you're going to get a lot of resources. You will get a lot of them, especially for beating a mission. And the co-op is just way more fun than just paying for more resources if you're going to do microtransactions, because the co-op's a blast. I feel like the co-op modes are the real meat of the endgame within Survive. Essentially, you and 3 other friends face off against waves of enemies as you try to protect your mining device. These can get increasingly more challenging on harder difficulties and net you with even better rewards. The rescue co-op missions are similar in that you need to protect a target, but you first need to then find that target, carry the target back to your base, and then defend them as the target's getting sucked through a wormhole. Within these stages, there's also a boss that you need to face, so that adds some more challenge to the battle. Both of these modes are awesome and fun. I do wish the game had the option to explore the open world with a friend and maybe even add that in a post-game patch. If you're not into co-op, there's some more stuff to do in the single player, like repeating many of the side quest missions that you have, collecting more crates, getting all the collectibles. There's also additional boss fights. While the first boss fight in the game of the story isn't really anything special, the first optional boss fight is a memorable encounter. You'll have to really prepare for this fight and bring all the ammo you have for it. There's also a second boss encounter, and I like that they're there. Post-game also features new enemies like elemental-based enemies and elemental-based ammo. You'll also get access to subclasses to provide more opportunities to level up your character. One subclass that I chose was really cool because it allowed me to turn on optic camo and sneak past enemies for a short period of time. The music is worth discussing in that it's a good soundtrack. The ambient music and noise when in the dust really fits the area, and I like the noises that are used, especially because you can hear the shaft grenades that are part of the series while you're exploring the dust area. Along with the rest of the tracks, it just knows when to come in and hit the right beats, especially when you're fighting a load of enemies. To add to the music too, what's nice is part of the collectibles you'll find music from prior Konami published games like say Contra or some of the other Metal Gear Solid games, and you can listen to those back at your base. I just wish there was a way to take those tracks with you and turn them on while you're exploring. The game has its fair share of comedy too. Probably the funniest aspect of this game is hunting animals. Hitting animals with your powerful punch is both hilarious and a good means to hunt for them. PETA approved. Before you enter a co-op mission, you'll be in a staging area, and this is where you can gear up and see what supplies you have and your allies have and kind of adjust accordingly. Or you can dick around with everyone there and have a fun time. I've mentioned a few flaws within the game, and I'm going to discuss a few more here. The co-op wait times can kind of vary. You're either quickly going to be in a match, or you're going to be waiting the full wait time before you can get into one. Which is why I highly suggest just play with friends. It's consistent that way. If you have a couple friends to play with, you'll be able to start playing right away. There's an AI in the game that always consistently reminds you of all the different meters that you need to monitor while you're playing. And you know what? It gets really annoying after a while, and I wish there was a way to turn them off. In fairness though, I got so engaged in exploring at one point in the game that I forgot to monitor my oxygen. So as annoying as they are, in one instance they did help me out. The first boss fight, like I said before, wasn't anything special, and I was over leveled at this point, but I do think it could have been a little bit better, as the two hidden boss fights are pretty fun. I love the last mission within the game, and it's just for the sense of scale that goes on, because essentially it's a tower defense wave session, but there's so many enemies that are thrown at you that you can definitely feel the scale. And part of what makes this great is that all your allies within the cutscenes are helping you out. They're preparing for this fight. But what sucks is that they are not present while you're actually playing the fight. They kind of just disappear and it's just you. I think it would have been a lot cooler if they were present and fighting alongside you within the final battle. Lastly, I have to mention the always online connection. I never really had any issues with the connection as I was playing the game, but I do wish that the game didn't require that online connection, as most of the game is a single player game. And I do think that the use of the online connection was used to prevent, say, cheating, because both progression from single player and co-op are tied together. Either way, I hope this is patched out in the future, just so that when the servers go down, I can still enjoy the single player. Metal Gear Survive is a game I never asked for, but at the same time, I'm rather happy I played. I was even off-put by the idea of doing a zombie game as a spin-off to this series. But as the beta approached, I wanted to try and give this game a shot, as there might be something there I would enjoy. I had many issues with the beta, while also having fun. As I continued to play the full game, I found myself enjoying it more and more. The game isn't without its flaws, but I do not think it's the dumpster fire that many have said it was. While I enjoyed the game, I understand that since the game uses survival mechanics, that it's also a bit niche in its approach, but a game that continues to open up and reward the player as they progress throughout the game. It is totally fine if you do not like this, but I don't see the reason for the bashing I have seen online for people hating on the fact that others are enjoying the game. I would encourage finding a middle ground on the topic. I digress, and recommend that you give Metal Gear Survive a try. It might surprise you with an entertaining experience and one you may not be expecting. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other ones, and if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon links at the end of this video and the description down below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.